This is the Best or Worst podcast. And now, here are your hosts, Koji Stephen Sakai and M. Martin Mapoma.
All righty, welcome. This is Koji.
And I am Martin.
And this is episode number 43. And this is the Best or Worst pod. It's crazy. So we've done 43 of these episodes. But we're going to be reading you our description. Our society is so focused on celebrity, we sometimes forget that regular people lead interesting lives too. Best or worst moment of your life. Hosts Koji Stephen Sakai and I'm Martin Mapoma are here to let your story out. We put people on the spot. What are you going to hear? It could be funny. It could be poignant. It could be sad. You'll know when we know. Best or Worst is now a twice weekly podcast. On Tuesdays, we get to know our guests. And on Thursdays, we find out about their best or worst moment.
All right. Well done, Koji. So proud of you.
And Martin, you're supposed to talk about the new.
Yes, I am. Wait, what am I supposed to talk about?
Okay. So we're doing two new episodes every week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. On Tuesdays, the interview episodes, and on Thursdays, we're just doing the best or worst. And the reason we're doing this is that, we want you guys, if you just want to hear the best or worst, you go straight to that. If you want to know a little bit more about the people we're talking to, you get to know that. And just so you could get right to it right away. So look for our episodes on Tuesday and on Thursday. Martin, why don't you introduce our new guest?
All right. I've been waiting so long for this. This is one of the coolest people that I know. I've known Christian Stolte from Chicago Fire fame. I've known Christian since I first started in this industry. I believe that I auditioned for him when he was an auditioner way back in the day. Jane Brody, how about that?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the nice people that I knew who always gave me encouragement, Christian Stolte, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, buddy. That had to be early 90s. Does that sound right to you?
Oh, yeah. That was 90. I got to Chicago in 1994. I signed with so Bill Heil, who was the Elite, came to Kentucky when I was, after I graduated, and I'd done 6 degrees of separation to show. And at the time, I was modeling, and he came searching for talent to bring to Chicago, and I drove him around for 3 days. And I said, "Is there any chance I can go?" Long story short, he said, "If you work hard in a year, give me a call, and I'll introduce you to Stewart Talent." So I went to Stewart Talent, and ended up with Arlene Wilson, and I'll never forget one of my first auditions at Brody, and you were there.
You were immediately sort of a shining comedic presence. Like we got excited when we had a reason to bring you into the office to audition for something. You say 6 degrees, and I'm thinking, oh yeah, you probably had to do plenty of drama, but people knew you were funny.
Yeah, you actually cast me in my first national Class A network commercial that ran for 4 years.
Oh, nice.
It was oh my God, it was that African American malt liquor, Colt 45.
Colt 45.
Yeah, we shot it in Oprah's Harpo Studios, and I'll never forget. It was awesome. But you were there. I'll never forget that, man. It was so cool.
You never forget that. Whatever the first big job that sort of validates your choice to do this crazy stuff.
Yeah.
What was your first break for you?
My first job was the first thing I auditioned for. Martin brought up Jane Brody. I moved here permanently in January of 1990. And I had a couple of buddies that were taking an acting class, and I met them after class to have beers, which was kind of the best part of an acting class anyway. So I skipped the class part and just went for beers afterwards. And on that occasion, Jane Brody happened to come along with them. So she met me, and we started our 10, 12-year dance. And she had me, I took classes with her till I couldn't afford it anymore. I said, I needed to take some time off from class. She said, well, come and work for me. So I started running the camera, which is where I started meeting one actor after another. And then I probably saw, God knows how many thousands of auditions I witnessed, which was my real education.
Yeah.
Seeing the best and the worst people auditioning. It was really unfathomably helpful. It would be something that it was just an opportunity to pay some bills is all I was doing it for, but I would recommend that to anybody.
Yeah. You know what, Christian, you're so right, because it's so true. When you see people's good auditions and bad auditions, and you used to always get me, because I was a reader a couple of times. I did for theater shows at the Goodman Theater.
Yes.
and then a couple of movies that were coming in. But I'll never forget, there were a couple of times people would come into audition, and they were off. In my mind, they were awful, and they would get the job. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
And it worked out.
And you're not in a position to ask questions.
Yeah.
You know, like it sounded like the job you were talking about, you had a job driving somebody around who was looking for
in Kentucky. Yeah, he was actually he was scouting models. But,
scouting models.
Yeah, but Elite was also, Elite in Chicago was tied to Stuart Talent.
Yes.
And so he was on the Elite side, and I was not a model. I mean, I did a little bit of work, but I wasn't, the classic 6 foot, 6'1". I didn't have the look, but I was acting. And he said to me, he goes, "That's where you're really going to make your mark, Martin." He goes, "But," and like anybody, he goes, "if you work hard and you really do what you can in Kentucky, I will give you a shot when you come to Chicago." So I did that. But yeah, and but then again, it was crazy seeing all these people coming in.
But were you in his presence in the first place because you were one of the models he was scouting, or were you helping him?
I was helping him. I was driving him around because he was looking for girls. I mean, Elite was. I mean, just female modeling was so much bigger. So I was driving him around, driving him to the what do they call it? Like the searches, and you would see people, and listening to him was really eye opening too, because he was a talent scout as well, and he knew it right away when he saw it, and and he also knew right away when he didn't see it. So it was very eye-opening from his side too to see it. And he could say, and he would tell me all the time, he goes, "You know what? That person has the it factor. Mm-hmm. That person will make it. That person will have a harder time. That person will have an easier time."
And you're just taking it in and soaking it up and learning whatever you can. I think there in a performer's career, there are moments like that happen where you are sort of fly on the wall. You are put in this position to help somebody do something. You're reading for somebody or whatever. And a lot of people who aren't in the business, my family, for example, most people's family would say, "Oh, well, you should ask them if you can blah, blah, blah." But how you play your cards in those situations can make or break you.
It's so true.
I mean,
so true.
I lean towards treading very, very lightly in those situations. I was a reader at the Goodman when Philip Seymour Hoffman was directing a play. So I spent a couple of days with him, and I just kept 99% of my thoughts to myself, which is not terribly easy for me to do, but it seemed like a smart thing to do. And at one point, he kind of looked at me and he said, "You and I could play brothers." And I said, I am not going to be the one to talk you out of that idea, but somebody else will.
Is this before Chicago? Is this before Chicago Fire?
Yes.
But it was. When was this? Was this before 2000? Was he big then yet? I can't remember.
Yeah, he was. Okay. It was after 2000 for sure. The play was The Long Red Road, and actually Tom Hardy was in it.
Yeah. You were the reader for that?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. Did you see Tom Hardy read, or?
No, I didn't. I'll be honest with you. This was right before I knew who Tom Hardy was. Because I remember hearing the name and it didn't mean anything to me. And then within a year or so later, he was everywhere.
Yeah.
So it was in that time frame somewhere. I was a reader for, get this, Kenneth Branagh came to the Lyric Opera he was going to make a film of the opera The Magic Flute. I'm not versed in this stuff at all, but
neither am I.
So what he came to find out was how many opera singers have the acting chops required to make a movie. And I spent 2 days, a weekend with him, just sitting there reading with, I'm off camera reading with opera singers. And I'll tell you what, the best revelation of that, Martin, is that I can almost guarantee you take the average opera singer, you and I can sing opera better than many of them can act.
Really? Oh, yeah. I believe it.
If we had to switch jobs, I think we would fare better than most of them would.
I believe that, man. So tell us a little bit more about, I know a little bit about you, a lot about you. But I want everyone else to get to know you, because you're such a great guy. And if I can put you out there even more with our little rinky-dink show, man.
Well,
That
I
would make me
appreciate
happy.
that, man. I appreciate that. I'm not a terribly ambitious guy, so
You don't have to be now.
well, I was never one of those really hungry, gotta make it guys. You know what I mean? I never
But you
really
know,
had a plan.
You didn't? I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
I remember there was a movie or a show coming into town, and I don't know if it was Jane Brody or Jane Alderman was doing a reading, and she wanted to bring in 3 of the biggest actors in Chicago. And I remember, I'll never forget this, her saying that it was you. Oh God, it was you. There was 2 other guys for some show, and I think you got the role. It was a movie, I think. I know it sounds kind of random, but I'll just never forget that. I remember them saying. I remember thinking, wait, Christian was the guy who was auditioning us, because at the time I didn't realize that you were an actor as well. I mean, I was young, I didn't know any better. But you were one of the you, Kurt Nabig, and Lance Baker.
Wow.
Remember Lance?
I do, yeah. I'm still kind of in touch with Lance and Kurt as well.
Yeah, Kurt and I just became friends on Facebook, which was kind of cool. I didn't know he was a skateboarder, but enough about Kurt.
Wait a minute, real quick. One more thing about Kurt. One of the last things I remember doing before we were locked down and all of that stuff, sort of social gathering, was going to Kurt. Invited me to watch him do this one-man show he wrote about being his skateboarding and his whole insane young life that he had.
It's crazy, right?
It was called Stove Toucher, which is a term. It's a brilliant term when you think about it. He's one of those guys that someone can tell you the stove's hot, but he has to touch it anyway. But it's a fascinating story. I hope he gets a chance to put that show up because it was fantastic.
Wow, he's fearless.
Yeah.
What have you been up to lately, Christian?
Well, we've been kind of bouncing back and forth. We have my wife's father passed away some time ago, but he had a house in Michigan City, kind of right on the lake that we acquired. And so we've been going out there and probably spending at least half our time out there. I'm not really a beach guy myself, but I do like being out there away from everything. Yeah. So, our place here is in Skokie.
Okay.
That's where we are. Yeah. Hell yeah.
Wow.
Once I'm inside my house, though, I don't really know where I am anymore. You know what I mean?
I never want to leave my house.
I resisted moving to Skokie or Skevinston or whatever for reasons that were not really clear to me. I just didn't think I wanted to live there. But I realized once I'm in my house, I don't know where I am anymore.
Yeah, that's cool.
So did you? Sorry. I was going to ask, did you always want to be an actor, or is that something that came out later? When did you?
Sort of a back of my mind kind of thing. I was way more into movies than most of my friends were as a kid. I was into sports because everybody was into sports. I grew up in St. Louis, Cardinal fan, all that stuff. And I kind of totally lost interest in that at a certain point. I was going, who gives a shit about any of this, really? I liked playing sports, but I didn't like surrendering myself to, well, here's my weekend of 16-hour block. I'm going to watch sports all weekend long. It wasn't that interesting to me. So I like I say, I was in St. Louis. I was really into movies. I think I had somewhere in the back of my mind idea that would be cool to do, but didn't know anything about it. Had zero connections to the business and was not quite a fearless self-starter who would say, I'm going to figure this out. I'm pack my steamer trunk and head to Hollywood or something like that. I just sort of stumbled into it. I moved to Chicago. I was working in the funeral business. Dig that.
What?
I know. I spent 4 years in the funeral business in 4 different states. And it's even better. It's even better than that. I managed an office full of people that would cold call people about their funeral plans.
Oh.
So I did that in St. Louis, then Chicago, then Omaha, then Houston. Then they shut down that part of the operation, and I was cut loose and moved back to Chicago and thought, well, I saw a few plays while I was in Chicago for the less than a year that I lived here working for the funeral folks. And I thought, I'm going to go back there and I'm going to try it. I'm just going to do it. And
that's how you got into it?
Yeah, just came back and said, I'm just going
Wow.
to try to get into some plays and see if I can. And I remember being pretty overwhelmed. I remember coming here with some friends and meeting a couple of people and going to the Gaslight. Remember that bar?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sure.
Steppenwolf. Going there and
Sure.
just seeing a crowd of everyone in here. I can tell they're actors and they all know each other and they all have something going on. And it was a little overwhelming. And I thought, well, Jesus, I am never going to penetrate this. There's just no reason to give a damn about me in particular. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I never felt like I had any sort of obvious pull that, you know, there's some people you look at and you go, oh, I don't know if he can act or not, but I sure want to watch him. I want to watch him. I want to find, you know, I never felt like I had anything like that.
Yeah.
And I think everything that did happen for me happened very gradually, and a little of it was just dumb luck, and a little of it was being friends with the right people.
Come on, Christian. You have talent, dude. You have talent, man.
I saw enough untalented people to understand. Right, I know how to do this thing. I know how to do this thing.
Yeah.
I can see what they're doing wrong. And once in a while, not once in a while, but fundamentally, I can approach this the right way. It doesn't mean I always pull it off. There are performances of mine that I've seen that I went, I wish they would have hired somebody else. Because that's
really?
Yeah. That's part of the permanent record, and I don't ever want to see that thing I just did. I don't ever want to see that again, you know. So I pulled it off on a pretty small scale. Like you look, and I was like, oh, there's 20 movies I've been in. I'm in those movies for 18 seconds for the most part. You know how it is. You know how it is.
I do. Oh, I do.
A big movie comes to Chicago, and they've got 20 parts they're auditioning for, and you know, none of them are particularly grand parts. And then the other thing, I used to teach acting as well, and I would point this out to students. If you're doing a scene with John Cusack, you're the store clerk, and John Cusack is obviously, he's the lead of the show. He comes in, and there's a scene he has with you, the store clerk. Well, when John Cusack is talking, the coverage is going to favor John Cusack, right? But when you're talking, well, we kind of want to see how John Cusack feels about the things you're saying. So we're going to cover him for the most part, for most of your dialogue as well. So it's just a little piece. It's a little bit of, hey, Mom, I'm going to be in a movie or whatever. And, have you ever been just completely cut out of something you shot?
You know what? Funny you say that. I was spared that. I was spared that up until the season finale of The Shield. And I had a big scene with Andre 3000 from Outcast. And we had this real long scene, and they cut it out. They cut it out on the season finale. You see me in the jail, and I was like, "What?" And then when it went into syndication, you saw my scene, and I was kind of like, "Wow, that was a first." And then the other time was a Jordan commercial.
Wait, I'm sorry. It went into syndication, and then the new version of it, they saw your scene.
Yeah, the original version, they saw my scene.
Huh.
Yeah, but they put it back in. Yeah, it was weird because one of my friends was like, "Hey, Martin, you know how you were in The Shield and got cut out?" I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Dude, I saw your whole scene." I was like, "Wait, what?"
That seems really weird.
I don't know how that worked out, but it was kind of crazy. I get paid for it still, so.
When it seems like when things go into syndication, they're trimming to make room for more commercials.
Exactly, right?
It was weird.
It was maybe like a 30-second scene, which is still a lot. But that was crazy. And the other one was that Michael Jordan shot a huge commercial. And I did that with that guy, the guy who was he was a Verizon guy for the longest time. He was from Chicago.
Brian Baker.
I'll never forget. Brian Baker got cut out like the first day we were there, and I was like, "Oh man, that poor guy." And clearly, it worked out well for him. But I was cut out of the commercial. The commercial ran a couple of times, and I was in it. And then I was at my girlfriend's house. I was living with in Michigan City, believe it or not.
Wow.
And her parents have her dad has a beach house there, and I got everyone gathered around to watch a commercial. My little snippet got cut. But it did play. It was so embarrassing, but it did play in the Nike store. But that being said, Christian, this is the good part where we get to ask you about the best or worst moment in your life. And I'm going to preface this by saying that, your grandson being born, your daughter being born, who are all awesome, your wife getting married to your wife. those are very easy things.
Martin,
yes,
we're not.
and they're very important.
Martin, we're
Oh,
doing
wait, we're not?
remember we're doing the second episode,
Oh, okay.
right?
God, I
It's the
suck at
second
this.
episode. Yeah. that's why we had a meeting early. So Martin,
Oh my God.
so
Yes.
we're gonna be having a survey. So please come to our website. Please come to our show notes. Look at the survey. This survey is really gonna help us figure out who's listening and help us get out there. So go to that. We're gonna be giving out 10 graphic novels that I wrote called 442. It's about
10 graphic novels. Koji is a great writer, and his graphic novel 442 is about the Japanese oh my God,
Japanese American. It's the Japanese American soldiers who fought during World
soldiers.
War II. So
their unit.
So please check that out. It's really, really helpful. I know surveys are super annoying. I've only done a couple for podcasts I listen to, but please help us out. This is really great for us to do. And we're going to be splitting a second episode. So if you're interested in hearing the rest of this episode, hearing the best or worst from Christian, then come back on Thursday, and the second half of the episode will be there. All right. Bye, guys.
I'm going to sit here till Thursday.
You don't go anywhere, Christian.
All right.